Household Consumption Expenditure Survey 2022-23. So this video is a bird's eye view of the survey from an investor's lens. So this survey is done by NSSO after a period of 12 years to capture the change in consumption trends during this period in both urban and rural India. So the data is presented in the form of monthly per capita consumption expenditure. So this data is very important for both government and central bank in dealing with indicators like inflation, interest rates, income inequality, poverty, etc. So there are three important data points that are very relevant from an investor's point of view. We will discuss those. One is the food versus non-food spend. So the survey starts with a number on monthly per capita consumption expenditure, which is rupees 3,773 for rural and rupees 6,459 for urban. And if you break that into food and non-food, the survey says that in rural, people have spent 46% of this amount in food and 54% in non-food. In urban, it is 39% in food and 61% in non-food. So if you look at both rural and urban, over the last 11 years, the spend in non-food items has actually gone up by 4 to 6%. So this is also in line with investors' expectation that with income growth, people will spend more on non-food items rather than food items. And this is one of the trends that investors have been banking on. Now, the second important data point is where people have spent. So this survey gives a very detailed category-wise breakup of where people have spent their money. So in both rural as well as urban, spending has actually come down on cereals, whereas it has increased on items like milk, meat and egg, and processed food and beverages. So this processed food and beverages is one of the categories that has seen a significant growth in both rural and urban, and this also coincides with the rise of companies like Zomato, Varun Beverages, Tata Consumer or McDonald's and Domino's in stock market in the last 10 years. Another category where people have spent more is consumer durables, both in urban and rural India. And but this is not fully reflected in stock market due to lack of representation, especially in categories like mobile phones, other consumer electronics, then wearables, all these kind of categories. Maybe perhaps the only company that is closely aligned to this is maybe Dixon Technologies, which has performed well in stock market. The third important data point is state-wise per capita, monthly per capita consumption expenditure. So this is very important because India is a sum part of different states, and we also used to discuss about this number, average per capita GDP, which is almost at $2,500. But there are actually states where the per capita GDP is much higher than $3,000, and there are states where the per capita GDP is lower than $1,500. That is half of some other states, and these are all large states actually. So this this data needs to be closely looked at because it can give significant insights on which states are the drivers of food and non-food consumption. So there are three important takeaways from this data. One, if the average spend of urban in a particular state is much higher than the average, then that also means that the state may be home to modern industries like IT, automobiles, research and development or consumer services, and that state may be the key driver of non-food consumption or discretionary consumption. Second, if the gap between rural and urban spend in a particular state is lower, that also means that may mean that the income inequality in that state is lower. And the third important data is if the average spend in both urban and rural is far below the average for certain states, then that means that those are low income states, and those states may not be the drivers of non-food consumption or discretionary consumption. So these are some important data points which are relevant for investors and also for companies from the point of view of planning their expansion or retail footprint. So these are some of the takeaways from this data from an investor's point of view.